They can.
The 2020 Styrian Grand Prix. How did you find that?
It wasn't like as good as last week, the week before the Austrian Grand Prix, but it was still all right. First few laps were quite exciting, but
Yeah,
the middle was quite like boring, and then was the ending quite exciting again. So just one of those
yeah,
races that you have to keep watching in case something happens, but nothing really
yeah,
happened. But yeah, it was one of those.
yeah. So Saturday we had the start of the weekend. We had a lot of talk was about the weather because there were concerns that FP3 and qualifying would be cancelled. We did get to qualifying obviously, but it was a really interesting qualifying. What did you think of that?
The qualifying was I thought it was really exciting.
Yeah,
Especially Q3. Q3 was ridiculous. Like everyone was just getting fastest lap, and then you're just like, who's on pole? Gasly was third at one point, and I was just like, what the sorry for swearing. I shouldn't be swearing, but
yeah,
I was watching it, and yeah, and then Ferraris were slow, but we should be used to that at this point. But yeah, it was really interesting.
yeah,
Little battle between Hamilton and Verstappen and Bottas. Hamilton showed that he's better than both of them.
yeah. So in qualifying we saw just one thing I wanted to mention, that we finally saw Russell into Q2.
Yeah, that was
a big occasion.
Yeah, that was one of the highlights of the section.
Yeah.
Wait, how far away was he from?
I can't remember, but I think they did drop off a bit as the weather got better.
Okay, fair enough. Well, to be fair, when it comes to
Yeah.
like rain, everyone's like on an even playing field almost. It's just
Yeah.
like it brings the pack closer together.
Yeah.
So
You mentioned Ferrari there and how they didn't they got one car into Q3. Going on to lap 1 of the Styrian Grand Prix, I just want to bring something up on screen, which basically summarizes how I feel about Ferrari at this point. Oh no, that's the wrong that's the wrong one. Here we go. Here we go. This is how I feel about Ferrari right now. Absolute clowns. The first lap incident was, I'm just going to say it, I think Ferrari are the worst team in F1 right now. Just straight up. Williams.
you see, I would be like trying to defend them at something to say, but I can't help but somewhat agree with that statement, considering that they have the highest budget out of everyone, and they're
Yeah.
the fifth best team. I'd say fifth, but like it's interchangeable between them and Racing Point and McLaren. But they shouldn't really be racing Point and McLaren. They should be racing Mercedes and Red Bull.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they can do. I said last week that I think they'll win a race off merit. I don't even think they'll win a race at this point. How they're going. I really wanted to see how the upgrades they brought, like what difference it made to the car, because Vettel did say that it's better now. Get to see that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Even though that they did bring upgrades, they still couldn't get both cars into Q3. And obviously in the race we saw that they just took each other out. Even though I would say that even though that's not necessarily due to the car or the team, I think it's just indicative of the state of the team that both drivers are in the midfield, a position that they're not used to being in, and they can't they can't like they ended up crashing into each other, because if they had been towards the front of the grid, I don't think they would be in that position to even get that close to each other.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I think it's a case of them thinking, oh, I started 11th. I have to get as many places as I can before the first pit stop window, or like first lap where everyone's close to each other. Because you can clearly see when the clerk was going for that overtake, he hesitated and he thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. Like, he braked a little,
Yeah.
and he was just like, you know what, I'll just go in now, and then he just completely took out Vettel. This is actually the first accident in a while that it wasn't Vettel's fault. I was kind of surprised. It was even Martin Brundle was like, "Oh, Vettel crashed into Leclerc," in the commentary. When I heard that, I was just like, "Okay, this is what we expect of Sebastian now." People think he's washed, but
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Yeah. I saw a really interesting video on YouTube today from the race, and they were talking about how this year is a really important year for Ferrari, because their engine has basically been completely nerfed out of oblivion. That they have the next 6 months before 2021. They get one upgrade this year and another upgrade next year, and then the engines are going to get freezed until 2024, I believe. So if they don't get this, if they do end up sacrificing this year and they get a better engine with the upgrades that they can do for next year, it will be worth it. But I can't see Ferrari actually doing that, because they just seem to be such a disaster right now. So it could be a very long time before we see Ferrari challenging again, just based on how the regulations are going to work in the future with the frozen engine configurations.
We do see this inconsistency a lot from Ferrari. They normally challenge for the title and then they just go somewhere. They come back, challenge again. So I'd say a few seasons maybe, but don't be surprised if you see them at the front of the grid on a few seasons. So
yeah,
that's my breakdown.
Yeah. I don't know. As I said last time, with the cost cap as well, it's going to be a much more level playing field with all the other teams, so it's going to be even harder for Ferrari to come back from what they used to be. So I don't see them actually doing anything with, even though they have the money right now to be at the front, then they still can't do it. I don't see how it's going to ever work out. So
I can agree with that.
Yeah, just absolute disappointment in this team. But realistically, I don't really care about Ferrari, to be honest. I just want to see any team being able to fight. So even though Ferrari have history, if you can't compete, I don't care. So speaking of Ferrari and the future, a lot of people this week have been talking about driver market for next year, and obviously where is Sebastian Vettel actually going to end up, or if he's even going to be in F1 next year. So it has come out that Red Bull won't consider Vettel. Aston Martin have said that they're not going to consider Vettel, and it seems that Mercedes are going to re-sign both their drivers for next year. So realistically, the only places now, because Alonso's back at Renault, that the only places that Vettel can go are Alfa Romeo and Haas. And because of the engine, obviously, with Ferrari, they're going to have a lot of the same issues as Ferrari next year. So where do you think Vettel, what are Vettel's options now?
He's most likely going to take hiatus. So I think he'll be out next season and come back um, maybe retire at this point. Obviously, I wouldn't want to see him go. There's a likely possibility. I give it like a 30% chance that he retires, just off head.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with what Red Bull said, you have to take everything they say with a grain of salt because they always lie about their driver lineup. They said last year Gasly's got a car. He's gonna stay in the car, and then they shipped him off. Said
Yeah.
I don't know. They always say like similar things about their drivers, so I don't really believe anything Red Bull says.
Yeah.
I was hoping that he'd end up at Mercedes, but obviously Valtteri
Yeah.
is performing pretty well, so I can't imagine, and I'm obviously not going to imagine. They're obviously not going to let Lewis go, so you'd have to assume
Yeah.
that Mercedes are being honest about this. Um,
Yeah.
with Alfa Romeo, uh, not Alfa Romeo. I mean Aston Martin. So the Racing Point team now. I think there's a possibility he might go there because they were offering Lance Stroll's seat to Alonso. So I think if Vettel really wanted to go there, he'd have a decent chance. I think they'd be open to it at least.
Yeah.
It just depends on what he really wants to do. If he really wants to race in a car, I think he'll find a seat, but I don't think he'll be where he wants to be.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking the same thing. Really, Aston Martin, like, I feel like he should have a seat at Aston Martin realistically. If you compare him, obviously, to Lance Stroll, you'd say he's much better. He's got 4 championships in the whole, everything like that. But I just, I don't know. I don't see him being in F1 next year, personally. I don't know. He has said that, was it that, what was the story that came out about his contract with Ferrari? Was it that they cancelled it with him, or he cancelled it with them?
oh, they said I think he said that they didn't offer him on or something.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. So I feel like realistically he should go to Aston Martin because I feel they could be really good next year and in 2022. But I think also he might sort of be done with F1 a bit. I don't know. He doesn't seem I remember like back in 2015, 2017, it felt like there was a really good spirit in the team before a lot of basically before in Mexico 2016 was the first sign that we got that there was some issues with Vettel, maybe a bit of frustration and might have been prone to errors, but I feel like now he's not really, he just doesn't have the same heart for F1 as he did back when he was at Red Bull.
I feel like when you look at both the teams he's been with, Red Bull, been with 3 teams, but Red Bull and Ferrari, there is like a clear difference in how they manage things within that team, within both the. Red Bull, it has like a clear leadership, Christian Horner, Adrian Newey, and you know like who's in charge, and they did favour Vettel over Mark Webber as well. But in Ferrari, I feel like he was calling a few strategy calls and he was doubting like the team. I don't feel like the relationship between him and Ferrari was as good as it was perceived to be. I feel like it was just a honeymoon period at the beginning where he won a few races when they didn't really expect to win, and the whole Ferrari are back and all of this stuff. But then he started making mistakes that we've never actually really seen him make before he was at Ferrari. He did make a few mistakes at Red Bull, but then he still eventually won the championship. But when we were seeing these mistakes at Ferrari, I was quite surprised at the beginning. But now, like, we expect mistakes from him, which is quite odd for a 4-time.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like a lot of the problem originally with him going to Ferrari was that um, when Schumacher went to Ferrari in '96, they sort of, it was a project to build up, right? Um, and the same thing when Vettel went to Red Bull at in 2009, it was sort of a project that was starting to build naturally. But when he went to Ferrari in 2015, kind of got this feeling that he was trying to he trying to force a championship at Ferrari to sort of emulate what Schumacher did. So it's not as sort of a natural thing as um like if you're just trying to force a championship in at that team just to emulate what someone else does, it's not as natural. Whereas if you look at Mercedes in 2014, they weren't like saying, "Oh, we need to get a championship because this." They sort of got the best car, got the best engine, got the best driver, and then they were the best.
Yeah,
So that's kind of why I feel like you get those sort of errors like what Vettel has been making, because he puts himself, Ferrari and Vettel put themselves under so much pressure because they feel like they need to do what they did 20 years ago, whereas Mercedes and Red Bull don't really have that same problem.
yeah, I can understand that because I remember watching um two the year he came, was it 2015 or was it 2000? It's 2015.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
when he came, as soon as he came, they were like, "Oh, I remember the Eddie Jordan intro to that season. I remember this clearly. He said something along the lines of, "Is he trying to like emulate Michael Schumacher?" And then it showed him in like the Ferrari clothes, and then switched, and then it like the screen dissolved, and then it showed Michael Schumacher, which is obviously his childhood hero. And they were
yeah,
like, obviously the comparisons were going to happen when it's a German driver in Ferrari. And considering he was a four-time world champion at that point, he did come off a bad season, but he was still regarded as probably, I'd say, top two, top three drivers on the grid. So
yeah,
I don't know if it's a case of him moving to just to join so he can do what Schumacher did, or if it was a case of, oh, this team showed me what they're planning on doing in the next few years, and we can really challenge really soon. And I don't see that happening at Red Bull. So, because obviously at the time Red Bull did have Renault engines, so it depends on how you look at it, but I can see where
yeah,
you're coming from.
yeah, yeah. There were stories that came out that during 2018, 2019, that Vettel was sort of still talking to Red Bull as management, because it seems like Ferrari management just have never. Ferrari is a very sort of totalitarian management. They like everything to be controlled in the team. And it seems like they don't really give Vettel the sort of space that he needs to sort of expand as a driver, and I feel like that is sort of what contributes to him making so many mistakes, is that Ferrari are always obsessed with being, oh, we're Ferrari and we got all this history so we have to win, that sort of mentality, rather than just accepting that they're an F1 team and trying to make the best car, getting the best drivers, that sort of thing. They're too focused on their history.
Yeah, um, I can agree with that. It's also if you look at how different the cars he's driving are, in the way, in the sense of when it was at Red Bull, the cars more suited his driving style, I would say. Um, I don't know if it's the way that they developed the car. They might not have like, I don't know, developed it for his driving style, because he does like cars with like higher downforce than straight line speed, because that because when you look back at it, Red Bull weren't the fastest in the straights, but they were really good in corners and but Ferrari, their cornering due to like their aero has never really been amazing. I think
Yeah.
they were carried a lot by their engine. So
Yeah.
but I don't know.
But when you sort of compare the cars in 2010, 11, that sort of era, to 2017 spec cars, you can kind of see that those cars at the start of the decade are a lot lighter, a lot more stable on the rear with the blown diffuser. They had curves, but they obviously didn't have ERS like we have it now. So you could kind of say that he maybe likes that sort of lighter, nimble driving style compared to 2017, which are obviously a lot faster, but they're more aero dependent, and they are also a lot heavier in the corners, even though we do have faster engines now. So I think maybe the sort of switch in driving style between the less aero heavy cars, the sort of lighter, more less aero based cars versus the cars that we have now. So often you'll see that he'll make mistakes spinning in the low speed. I think that might have something to do with it based on driving style, but it's just one of those things, I guess, with it's just how it goes, really. I don't really know how else to say it.
Yeah, and yeah, I completely agree with what you said. I don't know. Maybe he's not as adaptable as we'd think he would be, if that makes sense. Because
Yeah.
I feel like when he's in the best car possible, well, the best car on the grid, I feel like he just dominates and he just leads from the
Yeah.
front. But when it's competitive and like when it's this car might win this weekend and this car might win this weekend, and it's really just up in the air, like how it was with Mercedes and Ferrari during 2018 and 2017. I don't know if he can like handle that sort of pressure also coming from the team, really putting pressure on themselves as well.
Yeah.
Um, and as you said, you do see him talking to Red Bull a lot. I don't know if he's asking for advice or if he's just saying hello. How are you guys? But
Yeah.
it's all speculation, like what he's talking to them
Yeah.
about. But we enjoy speculating, don't we? So.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. So yeah, maybe if we go back to the race now, um, it did seem that Hamilton was just on it the entire race. Like, I don't think we've even seen him do something like that for like on the latter half of last year. He wasn't that good, I don't think. Like, he was just on it all race, every lap.
I feel like Hamilton does this quite often, where if he loses a race, he just comes back and then wins like the next race, or if he loses like
Yeah.
if he doesn't like win a couple races, he'll go like on a 5 race winning streak. So I wasn't
Yeah,
surprised
absolutely.
that he just was just on it today, or not today. I mean, on Sunday. But yeah, I feel like it's quite common at this point for Hamilton to do that. He always does this, but I think he sort of felt away about the 5 second penalty and Bottas winning this week. I feel like that's the
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. So obviously at the front it did stay quite stale for the rest of the race. We sort of saw at the end of the race, Bottas just streamed past Verstappen, going into turn 4. It seemed like apparently reports have come out that Verstappen did have front wing damage that was interfering with the rear of the car. So that's something that obviously would factor into him being sort of slow on the back end of that race.
Um, to be honest, when I see like that sort of stuff, I can't wait for the new regulations because this like a little nick, someone will breathe on your front wing and it like messes up your whole race. So
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like a sort of I feel a type of way when I see like someone take a slight nick. They can't like drive. The car's undrivable now. Well, Verstappen's car wasn't
Yeah.
undrivable, but it obviously hampered his race. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like the sooner these new regulations come, the sooner the new regulations come, the better.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Yeah, I totally agree. So a lot of the race was focused on the midfield. I don't know exactly. I wasn't able to follow exactly what happened to Racing Point in qualifying. But they ended up towards the back of the grid. Do you know what went on there?
I believe Perez went out during Q1.
Yeah.
I believe that was due to like the rain getting heavier and he didn't really get a good lap in. So
Yeah, and I think Giovinazzi crashed as well, so
yeah,
it might have
yeah.
hampered his lap.
So he obviously started where he shouldn't be. I can't really
Yeah.
remember where Stroll started because at this point I don't really pay attention to Lance Stroll. We only pay attention to good drivers. Nah.
Yeah.
But wait, did Lance Stroll did he get into Q3?
I'm not sure. Sorry. Yeah, it's been a couple of days and I wasn't able to catch qualifying live. So, but anyway, we saw sort of they were able to just blitz through the midfield, and towards the end of the race, it sort of seemed that Racing Point on race pace were matching Red Bull, which was really surprising to see this weekend. We saw that Perez and Stroll were able to get past the Renaults after Ocon retired sort of before halfway through the race, and they were able to get past Ricciardo. Perez then was fighting with Albon, and they collided going into turn 4.
Yeah.
What do you think of Racing Point this weekend, and sort of how they seem to be really showing what we predicted in pre-season testing?
I was really impressed with the Racing Point first of all. I did feel like that these back-to-backs would show which teams adapted better than others. I feel like Racing Point did adapt the best of all to what happened last race, because I feel Perez, I believe, finished 6th in the Austrian Grand Prix. Am I correct? Yeah, and he finished 6th after starting basically at the back of the grid. So he did basically cut through the grid. He was unlucky with the damage with Albon and Lance, not Lance, Norris overtook the both of them towards the end of the race. They were quite unlucky with that, but if there was no contact, he would have finished 5th, which would have been very impressive.
Yeah. So we sort of that the end of the race sort of highlighted how close the midfield is now. So even the Racing Point do seem to be really quick. It seems that Renault and McLaren do also seem to be up there, because Ferrari seem to have so much problems. But I'd love seeing that final lap, with just seeing them all go ham, just everything on the line, just trying to get to a photo finish at the end.
That was
behind. Where were you going to say?
I said that was good. I haven't seen that in a while. I think the last time I saw that was Massa and Hamilton in 2011, I believe, in Silverstone, where
Oh yeah.
Hamilton went off the track and then came back on and then finished ahead of Massa.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I haven't seen that in a while, but
Um, yeah.
I just
One
want to say it
thing
would.
that I did want to. Oh yeah, what were you gonna say?
I said it would have been interesting to see where Ferrari would have ended up in all of this.
Yeah. Um, I don't know how the upgrades would have affected race pace because they were still quite far behind in qualifying. So I'm not too convinced that the upgrades that they did bring would have made them that competitive with Red Bull or Racing Point.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
One little nitpick that I do want to make with the final lap was that last year at Singapore we had the same situation where the final lap we had like Daniel Ricciardo, Norris, Perez all fighting,
Mhm.
and we see the TV feed is oh Hamilton wins, oh Bottas second, and then there's like one of the best parts of the race and we don't even get to watch it because you have to watch the leader going across the line. So um even though
Yeah,
F1 are investing heavily in all these AWS graphics, they still haven't figured out this solution of being able to watch like multiple parts of the race at the same time.
um, I think it should be. You should have like. I remember when I used to watch on BBC. On BBC, you could have this red button mode, and you could see like where other
Yeah,
drivers were on the track. So obviously, if drivers are far apart or certain teams are far apart and you're going to see certain teams fighting and certain teams fighting on this part of the track and this part of the track, you're obviously going to be more inclined to watch the leaders. But if it's the case of, oh, the two Mercedes are literally just following each other, we don't really need to see them cross the line. uh,
yeah,
I get, but but
yeah,
F1's always been like that in the sense that they don't really pay attention to what's going on in the midfield.
yeah,
So like I remember seeing like Caterham and Marussia, one of them racing each other, like, and literally overtaking each other on the last corner. This was a while ago, so I can't remember the exact drivers, but I feel like it only the camera only caught that because they were finished so far behind everyone else, and they were
yeah,
still on the winner um doing their lap of honor or just collecting rubber or whatever
yeah,
they do.
yeah,
So I don't know. I think they need to like drum up more interest in the midfield because I feel like that is the most exciting part of the race. The
yeah,
sense that not every single race you're gonna see first and second racing for the race win.
yeah.
It's not like common.
um I've seen a lot. I remember last year at Singapore, I saw people on Twitter sort of make up new ways of sort of integrating a picture-in-picture mode of in the TV graphics. So you could have sort of the end of the race, sort of the classic like, oh, Lewis Hamilton crashes the line, and then you have like Bono saying, "Oh, get in there, Lewis," and then
Don't
you
you know
sort of.
Lewis?
But even though, yeah, even though you have that, you have like a little box in the corner that shows something else going on in the track. Because apparently MotoGP are a lot better at doing that because MotoGP has more racing than F1. So I don't know.
The solution I would propose is there should be, when there's when it's like battle for fifth place and it's like three cars all within 1 second of each other. You've seen that
Yeah,
graphic. Whenever
yeah,
the cars are like that close, it should automatically do like a split screen.
yeah,
So like if a car is within a second of another car and it's within the last 5 laps, just automatically just do a split screen. I think everyone else would be happier to see that rather than just see the
yeah,
race win across the line. But I don't
yeah.
know. There are a lot of Lewis Hamilton fanboys out there, so they just they just go back on Lewis's side of the screen and just be
They're
like,
there for the
yeah,
Bono
yeah.
the Bono radio.
No, just be like, Science? Who the fuck is that, man? And then they just go on that part of the screen, you know. But
Yeah.
I think it's.
Yeah.
I think they just need to put more attention on the midfield. I think they've done that a lot more recently because a couple of years ago or a few like at the beginning of this decade, we literally didn't care about the midfield. But that was because a lot of the big teams were close together. So like four big teams were all close together.
Yeah.
So but now it's just like Mercedes is like a tier above everyone else, and then it's Red Bull, and then everyone else is in one fat tier now. Like I take back my tier list from the other week. Like everyone else is in like a fat tier, apart from Williams, Haas, and Alpha Romeo. I think those two are like slightly behind everyone else, but it's literally just a 3-section pyramid. It's just like one car, everyone else. I've never seen a season like that in my life.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Even though we still have the problem with the F1 feed live, F1 have been way better with the post-race content. So I remember even like 2018 and before that, and sort of halfway through 2019, we used to see stuff we used to not see stuff on the race, and we'd see like people go onto F1 TV, watch a driver's entire race, and then they would post clips on Twitter, and then F1, like, no one knew about it until some random person put it on Twitter. But now we sort of see on YouTube with a way better content than we've had before, that we're sort of seeing more updates from the midfield, even though we don't get it live straight to us from the FOM feed.
Yeah, I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think, but I still believe that it's not enough in the sense that, like, why am I watching two Mercedes follow each other and then a Red Bull 5 seconds behind for 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Rather than just watching, I'd literally rather just watch the midfield just following each other like 1 second gap, and then they all have DRS. That's more interesting to me than watching Lewis Hamilton come around the final corner, carry on driving through the pit straight, and then Bottas come round 2 seconds behind, and then a Red Bull 5 seconds behind. You know, so like they need to sort out. That's the only like problem I have with F1 at the moment, but. I think it's not like a major issue. I feel like it does take away a bit from the racing and my personal enjoyment. This is just my opinion, by the way. Some people might enjoy watching Mercedes follow each other for 20 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah. But speaking of Racing Point, obviously in the midfield, there's been this whole drama since the Styrian Grand Prix about Racing Point and the legality of their car. So Renault, ever since pre-season testing and Racing Point have come out with their car, people have obviously said, oh, it's the pink Mercedes, it looks so similar to last year's Mercedes. Renault have just been talking about this car. It just seems like all Renault talk about now is the fact that there's something illegal with this Racing Point. Personally, I think that it's completely ridiculous that we're even like talking about this. Renault did the exact same thing with Haas in 2018 when Haas were better than Renault, right? And then in 2019 we saw that in 2020 it seems like, the Haas is very, very similar to last year's Ferrari. And we sort of saw that this year and last year that the Toro Rosso / Alpha Tauri, they are very similar to like the previous year's Red Bulls. But, but like those cars aren't really better than the Renault. But when a car that is better than the Renault seems to be sort of similar to a top team, it seems to be a massive illegal problem. So I I am so tired of hearing this argument from Renault that they can't build a good enough car with all their money, but Racing Point can, and Renault just can keep on protesting it.
I don't really know. Like, at this point, I just look at Renault. They've been in F1 since they came back. I don't know when they came back, but they just haven't been really that good since. They haven't been good since 2006. I'll say that. I'll say it like that. You haven't really contended for a championship since 2006, and considering you create an engine, you create the car, you create everything for yourself. You should be the fourth best team, just off of name. Like, it should be Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari with their issues, and Renault. That should be the top four. If we're just going off the biggest names.
Yeah.
The fact,
I'd argue that McLaren should be there as well.
Oh yeah, McLaren. I forgot about McLaren, my bad. But like in the sense of a works car, like they should be.
Oh right, yeah.
They should be top four. But the fact that forget Racing Point. McLaren has a better car than you, and they have the same engine as you, and you're the works team. So what's really going on here?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
So I'm looking at it from this just look at it from this perspective. First of all, Red Bull didn't want your engine because your engine was bad. They took Honda, which was at the time the worst engine in F1, and Honda developed it to the point that Red Bull are now the second best team in F1. And last year they won the second most races. And I think they might have won 3 races, which is the same as Ferrari, but I think they might have won more. But
yeah.
And then I don't really understand their issue in the sense that, Racing Point's the best team in the midfield now. We have to complain about this because it's not fair that you can copy another car. How about get to the point where people will be copying your car? Am I like wrong?
That is so true. Yeah, that is really true. Yeah.
Get to the point where people.
Why is it that Mercedes aren't complaining about Racing Point and Renault are complaining?
I don't know, man. I don't know, because the brake ducts, they stopped. They added new regulations so that you can't share details on brake ducts starting this year, I believe. Because Haas had the same issue and they just can't make brake ducts apparently. So So I don't know, man.
So that
rubbish.
That is the main crux of Renault's argument, is that basically Renault's brake ducts are similar to Mercedes.
Racing Points.
So they believe, Racing Points brake ducts are very similar to Mercedes, and they argue that because of the nature of the brake duct and how sort of compact and tight it is and sort of enclosed it is, that can't be copied based on based on photos. So that they argue that Mercedes gave them the CAD data for the brake ducts.
I can see what they're saying, because what they're saying, it makes sense. But if you look at it from the perspective of why would Mercedes give another team information on their brake ducts?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like, if you're looking at it from a perspective of like, Mercedes would do this so that Racing Point would be the best team in the midfield, and people would be like, it's because they copied Mercedes and they have Mercedes engines and all of this crap. It doesn't really make sense, you know? Like if Mercedes, if they're like, Racing Point are only the fourth best team. No, not fourth best team. The third to fourth best team only because they copied Mercedes. if that was their like, if that's like the point, if that's the thought everyone had in their mind, everyone would be like, so what? Renault would be the only team that would actually care.
Yeah.
I think it's like
Yeah.
I think they're just like, oh, Racing Point is our main competition, and McLaren and Racing Point are our main competition. We want to beat them in the Constructors' Championship, so we should just do this so that we can get any advantage possible because our car isn't good enough to beat them on track anyway.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
we've had 2 races and they haven't beat them yet, so I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I would say is that you often hear this quote that good artists copy great artists. And I would say that good engineers copy great engineers. So I study engineering, like I'm a student of engineering. So you have to understand that even though it looks similar to the Mercedes, it doesn't mean that they just took Mercedes and made the car. The way that it works is that if you have a set of regulations, it's sort of a natural tendency for the teams to develop into one idea that works the best. If you kind of know what I mean. So
yes,
eventually, after sort of trial and error, the way that the engineering process works, it generally fits into one model to get the best solution. So it's kind of natural that you kind of see that even Renault, right? Their front wing is actually, if you compare last year to this year, their front wing is more similar to Mercedes' front wing now, because naturally, good ideas that result in better, faster cars tend to be designed and put onto the car. It just makes sense. Even the Red Bull engine is a narrow. Even the Red Bull has a narrow front wing now, like Mercedes. So it's just natural that these sort of things, when an engineer in this team and an engineer in this team, they're sort of naturally gonna come up with similar solutions to get better performance. That's just sort of how it works.
I understand. I agree exactly with everything that you've just said. Because if you look back at 2017, all of a sudden everyone had a T-wing.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the car's suspension, Williams has a similar suspension. You know, like I don't really understand why.
Yeah.
I get why they're complaining, but at the same time, I don't. That makes sense.
Yeah.
No, I understand why you are upset,
Yeah,
but you shouldn't be upset, is what I'm saying. You know, if that makes sense.
Wait, just repeat that because it disconnected on
Oh,
Discord.
I said I understand why you're upset, but you shouldn't be upset. That makes sense.
Yeah. 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 But I think that sort of copying, maybe not sharing data, but I think copying should sort of be promoted in F1, because it sort of naturally will bring teams closer together on track if they do copy each other.
Yeah.
So I think it's just better for F1 if smaller teams can copy big teams in a fair way. That's not copying, like straight copying data and stuff, something like that. You should still sort of have the engineering process, but just sort of taking similar concepts but then developing them into your car.
Yeah, I feel like naturally, if you look at the smaller teams will naturally want to copy bigger teams because of how successful certain teams are, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like if you see a car finishing 5 seconds up before every single race, you know, you'd just be like, why are they like this? Why are they so far ahead of everyone else? You'd want to find out. You'd want to do what they're doing so that you could get closer to them. So I feel like that's just a natural process of F1. I feel like copying is part of F1. For you to say, copying shouldn't be allowed, you're not a fan of F1. So that's actually fascism. I shouldn't say that. But No, but it's just really annoying in the sense that if you look at Renault's budget, how big Renault as like a total, like a whole company is, not even looking at F1, how big Renault is as a
Yeah.
company, they shouldn't even be concerned about a team like Racing Point. Like, you should be like,
Yeah.
you should be 2 seconds ahead of them already. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
it actually bugs me. Like, if you're just going off name and company size, Renault, Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes, maybe McLaren, that should be your top five.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah.
I don't understand why Renault are even like struggling to even get points at this point. I know
Yeah.
like you're new to F1, but you're not new to F1. You know, you've been in F1, you've won championships. You left F1 because you were salty that you couldn't win any races. That's all I hear. Because they left in 2009 and they became Lotus or whatever because they weren't happy with the direction F1 was going in, aka they couldn't win any races. See, if Renault never left F1 at that point, they would have a larger budget and their car would be significantly better. But the fact that they couldn't hack not being good just says it all, my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally, yeah. When Renault came back in 2016, they basically had to bodge job the 2015 Lotus into 2016 regulations. 2017, 2018, they showed good progression. Last year was just bad. They just had a terrible year, and sort of this year they're sort of progressed a little bit, but they haven't progressed as fast as Racing Point and McLaren. So I just think that I don't know what the problem with their project is, but they need to, maybe going into 2022 they might be able to find something.
It's
But
just Renault. I don't like Renault as a
don't know.
team. I don't like Renault as a team in the sense that I remember them a while ago saying, "Oh, our engine has 1,000 brake horsepower." Like saying just rubbish like that. And then Verstappen was like,
Yeah.
"If their car has 1,000 brake horsepower, then their car is really bad." So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Maybe they should
Yeah.
innovate something like amazing, like a loophole in the regulation,
Yeah.
and everyone would complain about them. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It's very dumb. In
I
my
guess that
opinion.
wraps that story up. But
Yeah.
the one news story, big one that came out this week was we have two more races for the year. That's 10 races now we have for 2020. So Mugello is going to be on the calendar. What do you think about that announcement?
You know, I'm happy as a fan. It just means more racing, to be honest. I'm not really sure about this track though, because I don't know. It gives me Paul Ricard vibes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Paul Ricard. I've seen on track simulations and like how it drives.
Yeah.
I don't really like the cornering, but I might be wrong. It might be a great race. So
Yeah.
we won't know till we see it.
So last week, I tried out in Assetto Corsa the 2017 Ferrari at Mugello, and it did actually feel really fun to drive. A lot of the corners were like flat out, like sort of right on the edge for that car. And what I would say is, if I had to make an analogy for this track, I would say that it's sort of a mix between Hungary and Spain into the same track. So it's sort of like you get the narrowness of Hungary a bit, but you have the long corners of Spain, high downforce corners of Spain. So if you take both those tracks, I wouldn't say that that's necessarily the best combination for racing.
It doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound
Nah.
good. Because the problem with Spain is that you can't really follow closely due to the fact that a car, because of the car in front of you is dirty air, and because of the types of corners Barcelona has, um,
Yeah.
that effect is amplified, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you'd be, what turn is it? Turn. So you go through turn 1 and 2, and then the long turn 3. A car could
Yeah.
be down the road, so they'd be at turn 4. But if you just enter turn 3 as they're leaving turn 4, you can still feel the effect of their dirty air. So I don't know if that's going to be similar or if that's going to be exactly the same. But if that's the case, then I'm not really sure about it. If that...
Yeah. So, this race is being branded as sort of Ferrari's 1,000th race, which that's kind of cool, I guess, that we get a brand new track that's owned by Ferrari for Ferrari's 1,000th race. It is kind of funny that we have this big event for Ferrari, even though they're like having such a bad season.
Nah. I'll say a prediction: Ferrari will win this race due to some FIA bullshit, some juju magic. Look, all I'm saying is, if you see every single car other than a Ferrari get a puncture, then it's some sort of conspiracy theory. Just remember, Williams.
Be like,
Williams 2000. Yeah, no. Remember, Williams 2012. There's a lot of speculation with that race because Pastor Maldonado has no business winning the race. So, but I like this. I like the track. The track seems nice, but I feel like there's a lot of I don't know if it's going to be good for these type of F1 cars. If this was like 5 years ago, not 5 years ago, if this was 10 years ago or like 14 years ago, I feel like it'd be perfect. But with the type of like aero dependent cars, these are, I don't know if it'll be amazing.
Yeah. I'm gonna judge the race based on if F3 and F2 do have overtakes going into some of the long corners. I'll say that was pretty good. But if F3 if there's a big difference between F3 and F2 and then F1's a lot worse, it'll be obvious that this track isn't really suitable for the current situation of cars. But I feel like it could maybe be better with the new regulations going into the future. But I don't know if they will ever, like, after this year, I would like to see maybe a few more one-off races every, like, sort of bring back the European Grand Prix, and maybe have like a few one-off races every so often, just to sort of add a bit of excitement like this. Because going into Mugello, we have no idea who's going to be the fastest. Like, you could say, oh, like Mercedes and Red Bull are going to be the best, but like we don't have any idea of the pecking order might be because we've never seen the track before. It's sort of like when you go to Catalonia, you're like, oh, it's going to be this, because we've seen pre-season testing and we kind of like know how every driver and every car reacts to the track. Because we've been there so often. Yeah,
testing should be at a different track. I just want to put that out there. It should be at just like a like unique track, but or they should have testing at like different tracks for each teams, if that makes sense. But I don't know if they'll be able to do that. So like each team should just own a track.
I definitely think that testing should not be at a race weekend. I feel like if they went to like somewhere like Nürburgring or somewhere like that, we would have no idea who would be the fastest. But obviously with this story, it was also confirmed that Sochi is going to be on this race. Is going to be on the calendar this year. We could already guess that was going to be the case. What do you think about Sochi coming back? Are you excited for that?
Excited. I'll say this. Last year's race, the first half of last year's race before Sebastian Vettel's car broke down, was quite exciting. But that's just due to Ferrari tension. That's not due to like the track being good. I'm not really looking forward to Sochi as a track, but I will watch it because it's just more F1, I guess.
Yeah.
If you get what I'm saying. So, you know, Mugello
Yeah.
could be like the most boring track. It could be more boring than, I don't know. It could be more boring than
France.
like it could France. Actually, I won't say the other track I think was boring because I'll get flamed. But you know which track I'm talking about. Um, yeah. So like, this could be like the most boring race of all time. I'll watch it. If it gets too boring, I'll be like, oh, I should click off this. But I'll keep watching. I'll probably be on my phone and I'll just keep watching. And then in case of safety car, someone crashes out, and then it's exciting again. That's the only thing about
Yeah.
F1. You'll never know what will actually happen in a race. You know. Hopefully it rains at this
Yeah.
circuit. Hopefully every single track following this weekend rains, and it's just exciting from there on.
Yeah. Yeah. One silver lining of this is that we know, I can kind of tell now that we're not going to get that double header at Sochi that I was kind of dreading. So I'm quite happy about that.
Yeah, if you got that double header at Sochi, I don't even know why I do, because we already see like what the effect of double headers is, in the sense that Austria, which is an exciting race in general, was turned slightly boring. If
Yeah.
that makes sense, because if you look
Yeah.
at from 1 week, from week 1 to week 2, the difference between overtakes and just overall like how everything was in the
Yeah.
first race compared to the second race, it was just very different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I also kind of noticed it personally, like going into the second race, I was kind of like, I don't know, it kind of feels a bit like, why? Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel the same as a new race weekend. Do you know what I mean?
I get that. I feel like they should
Yeah.
just bring back Germany. Like, it's just gonna be so much better with Germany in there. You know, I'm not gonna ask for any. I'm not
Yeah.
look. I'm not gonna ask for too much and say bring Malaysia back, because there's a reason why we can't go to Malaysia at the moment. But just Germany's right. It's literally just right there. You're in Austria. It's literally 20 minutes away. Not 20 minutes away, but you get what I'm saying. That's like one night's
Yeah.
drive. That's literally
Yeah.
less than a day's drive.
One thing. Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I would say about, I have been sort of thinking about is, for according to FIA regulations, to have a world championship, you have to have at least 8 races, and you also have to do it across 3 continents. So obviously we've done Europe already. It's pretty obvious that we're going to do Asia, sort of Middle East, with Bahrain
Yeah.
and Abu Dhabi. But I'm still not sure where the third continent is going to come from.
It's got to be North America at this
I
point.
do feel like it's yeah, I feel like it's going to be the USA. They're just going to like have to force a race into the USA at the back end of the season. I don't really know, maybe Mexico, but I don't know if there's any other way that they could do it.
Ooh. Well, I will say this. In my head, I've got like, when I see certain races are coming up, I'm more excited for certain races than other races, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
One race I am particularly very excited for every single time is Canada. So
Yeah.
if you want to do a Montreal, obviously they can't do Montreal because it's a street track, but
Yeah.
it's got to be like an actual racetrack, because street tracks aren't allowed this year. So if they do something, if they do get to Austin, I won't be disappointed in any way, because Austin is a good track. Mexico is okay. It's okay. I don't know. I haven't really seen like an amazing Mexico GP. I've seen
Yeah.
Brazil always has something in store, especially when it's raining. So
Yeah. Well, sort of what I was thinking was that I don't think they'll do Montreal, because I think it's already too late in the year, basically because of weather. Because Montreal is like gets really cold. But I was just concerned sort of about, you sort of see with America COVID cases going up again, and the a lot of the EU countries and the UK are still not opening their borders to America. America aren't opening their borders to Europe. So that's sort of what I was worried about, is where are we going to get the third continent in
I think it
for
have to.
F1?
I think it'd have to be Brazil at this point. Brazil. I don't know if.
Yeah.
Um,
But I kind of feel like Brazil is sort of the same thing as well. Like they do seem to be having a big issue with COVID as
when
well.
I look at it in the sense of well, the majority of our races is going to be in Europe. But that's
Yeah.
like most F1 calendars anyway. The only races that are like
Yeah.
outside of Europe are like obviously the East Asian races, as in Singapore, China. There was going to be Vietnam this year, and Bahrain and Abu
Yeah.
Dhabi, the Gulf races.
Yeah.
Australia, the North American and Brazil races. So
Yeah.
there's just not a very big pool to choose from, because
Yeah.
it's either Australia or Canada, America, Mexico, or Brazil. From
Yeah.
from what we've previously seen, so either they could like choose like a random one, some like maybe some African GP. I don't know, but I don't think there's racetracks in Africa.
Yeah.
But, there might be, but I don't think there's like F1 certified one.
In South Africa, they have a track called Carl Army, which is F1, is FIA grade 1 certified. So that could actually be a solution if they have to find a third continent. They could do it in South Africa, maybe.
I don't know. That might be exciting, you know, but
Yeah.
I'd have to see that track. But there's like, I just feel like there's just not enough options at this point. I feel like they just have to wait out the year and see what else is available.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe, unless like Australia's
I know.
got like a second racetrack that we've never heard of, but I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
I don't know. It's just
It just
a
depends
bit
on
of a
what-
concern I have, because I just
mm,
there's something it just seems to be a lot of problems with going to any of the American countries right now. So it just seems to be Europe and Asia right now. So that could be an issue towards the end of the year with the World Championship. But yeah. So next weekend is the Hungarian Grand Prix. What's your thoughts going into the weekend? Who do you think is going to be fighting at the front?
I feel like this is going to be another race where it's just going to be Red Bull versus Mercedes. But I feel like it might be closer this race, closer than Austria, because it's less say power dependent. Hungary is always a track that Red Bull do well at, but I'm not sure if they're going to really close the gap to Mercedes, because Mercedes is just another level this year. Like it's like this is giving me like 2000 and give me 2014 vibes. So,
Mm.
I don't know, Mercedes might win every single race if we're not careful.
Nah.
No,
I
I'm
think that's not
I'm not even joking. Unless they like get some. I think the only person that would win a race other than a Mercedes driver is Verstappen.
Yeah. Yeah.
That might be one of my bonus predictions for the season. But but I feel like if I think about this properly, I feel like this is a Lewis Hamilton race. Hamilton always wins at Hungary, so if you see that, it's not going to be surprised. I'm not going to be if we see that, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm trying to get that out.
Yeah.
I feel like it'll be a Mercedes 1-2, and then Verstappen third, and Hamilton obviously finishing first. Fastest lap.
Alright.
Fastest lap, it might be. Fastest lap, I think it'll be. I'm gonna go with Lando Norris this time. You already got
Right.
one, yeah. It might get a few. If we're going F1.5, I think I think the McLarens are just slightly better than the Racing Points at the beginning of the season. Last week they obviously did start in a bad position, but I'd say they are still slightly better. So I'd say Sainz, Perez, then Norris.
Yeah,
that's my overall prediction.
yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of similar to you, but this race will show. This race is sort of the opposite sort of race as Austria. Austria has long straights, fast corners. Hungary has short straights, slow corners. So, if Mercedes are quick here, it will show that they have the best car overall. But I feel like Red Bull are going to be a lot more competitive here. It's just something about the philosophy about their cars is always good at these sorts of tracks.
Yeah.
So, I'll say the podium for Hungary is Verstappen. I'll say Verstappen, Hamilton, and then let's chuck in Carlos Sainz. Fastest lap overall, I would say. I'll say fastest lap. I'll say Valtteri Bottas. And then F1.5, I'll say Carlos Sainz, Perez, and then let's say Ocon, because Ocon showed a lot better pace in the second race of Austria. It just seemed like they had a reliability issue in both races, so I'll say Ocon. F1.5 fastest lap, I'll just say I'll just chuck in Norris. He seems to be fast and fastest laps. But, yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited for this race because last year we had a really good one with between Hamilton and Verstappen, with Hamilton getting that undercut. That was I really liked that race.
That was ridiculous. Yeah. Usually Hungary have like, I'd say it's one of them races where it's boring, but then it gets exciting and then it's boring again. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like boring for like a solid 80%, but that 20% is so good that you want to keep watching, hoping that it'll carry on.
It feels like at Hungary you either have a really boring race or a really memorable race. So I remember like in 2014 and 15 we had really interesting races with like Red Bull winning, Ferrari winning, getting different strategies and with the weather playing as well.
Yeah, so, I remember that race where it's Hamilton versus Button, and I don't know what year it was, but that race was really exciting. You can search that up if you wanna. But yeah, that race was really exciting because
I can't remember it.
because it was like something like along the lines of Hamilton was on the super soft, Button was on the soft. There was like 20 laps left, and Hamilton's tires were basically dying, and then it started raining, and then Hamilton went and they got intermediates, and then they fucked up the tires. Yeah. And it wasn't really raining like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as long as there's a minimum of one safety car, it'll be a good race. That's what. Listen, just throw. I think they should just throw out like debris onto the track anyway, and then puncture a tire. Someone just crashes into the back side, and then just get a safety car every single time. It's every race, just get a safety car.
Yeah.
Like when the gap's too much. When the gap's too much.
We should have like stage racing like NASCAR with four safety cars and
just like
don't even get me started on NASCAR.
Go around in circles and circles and circles and circles. That's real racing right there.
Because IndyCar slaps.
Nah, but IndyCar, they have different tracks, don't they?
So yeah, that seems to be about everything, I guess. I'm kind of, once we get this weekend done, I'm kind of looking forward to having an off weekend because 3 weeks in a row is a bit nuts.
Yeah. What race is after Hungary? It's Britain, isn't it?
Yeah. So we've got the double header at Britain, and then after that we have what race is it? Spain, I think.
Spain is so shit. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Just certain tracks, it should just like if it's just not.
No,
Just...
I think
You think?
I think Spain this year is going to be quite good because it's going to be super hot.
Oh, yeah.
So it might throw something interesting between Mercedes and Red Bull.
I'll say this, yeah. The FIA need to introduce a rule where it's like a minimum overtake quota, and if a race doesn't perform at minimum overtake quota for like 3 years, they should just cut that race. Like, imagine if they did that. It would just be bangers, like it'd just be race bangers like every single time. Or maybe they should just change the regulations and less aero. Oh wait, they're already doing that because they understood that the more aero you have, the more boring the races will be. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
I would never have thought about that.
But yeah, seems like we're going a bit off topic, so I guess we'll just round up this one. We'll be back next weekend, hoping for a good one, but still happy that F1's back.
F1's back, baby.